Threatened for quiet quitting. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. Let's have a look at this, well, not article, but letter to sisters-in-law regarding someone who has quiet quit. They've had enough, they're only working the hours they need to, and well, they're getting threatened. So a tech worker who was working 50-plus hour weeks for his employer. He's since rejected the crazy workload, and he's been singled out by his boss. Well, I don't know if he's been singled out by his boss or an HR lady. So let's have a look. I work at a startup tech company that expects its staff to go above and beyond. Prior to the pandemic, I was regularly pulling 50-hour weeks, and that's not sustainable. You know, you can do it in short bursts when you need to meet a deadline, or when you have a big project coming due, but you often pay the price for it. You're at risk of burning out if you work too much, and you'll need to take time off afterwards to recuperate. So working on weekends and replying to emails in the evening. But lockdown made me reprioritize my life, and I decided to work to live instead of live to work. And that's a really healthy idea. That's a really healthy idea. I mean, I would argue people need to work hard to get ahead, but you don't want to work yourself to death. And we've seen, again, employers just sack people as they need to. That's part of business. This is a business relationship here. Remember that. They're not your family. You've only got one family, and this tech startup may not even succeed, and they won't be there when you're on your deathbed. They won't give a crap about you. Slowly over the past year, I've put more boundaries in place at work. I try to work my 37.5 paid hours, have taken my emails off my mobile phone, and no longer work weekends ever. I believe the phrase for what I'm doing is called quiet quitting, but I like to call it doing my job in the hours I'm paid. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I remember when I went through a whole period where I didn't have any mobile phone for years at university. Rachel was really annoyed, and I just said, well, if you want to get in touch with me, contact me via Google Chat. I'm showing my age there. Hey, at least it wasn't ICQ or MSN Messenger. I didn't like MSN Messenger. It was too flash. You want to go ICQ, where you get people's ICQ numbers. Anyway, and I had people at the office I was working at going, what's your mobile number? And I go, I don't have one. Well, what if we need to get you on site? And I said, well, are you going to pay for a mobile phone? So, yep. Recently, my boss pulled me aside to say she's noticed I'm not putting in the hours anymore. I may have to go into performance management if my attitude doesn't improve. She added, putting in extra is all part of the culture at our workplace. Now, sometimes you need to put in extra. Okay? If you've got a deadline, if you need to, as an architect, I work on project-based deliveries, and we'll have time frames where we need to get something out, and sometimes we need to work really hard. Sometimes we'll have to work through the night, through weekends. I've had staff where we've had to do that. We've had to ask them to do it voluntarily. So, and it's interesting to see which ones would say yes and not, and we'd give them time in lieu. We'd give them the next day off to sleep, or let them sleep at the office to recuperate. I'd pay for their taxis home or their Ubers home if they were too tired. Now, and I remember once, they sent me home. We had a presentation. The lads were working through the night. They said, you need to present. You go sleep so you're not sounding like a babbling idiot. We'll finish it off. So there you go. And architecture is a bit different. We have a culture of working a lot, but you don't want to do that all the time because it's not worth it. And you'll burn out. You'll burn out. Okay? Oh. I'm having trouble lifting up my arms too high still. Oh. Day 3 in the gym, guys. I'll let you know how it goes if I last the month. So, I don't have a bad attitude. I simply don't want to half-kill myself to get the job done anymore. What are my rights? I feel like they're trying to performance manage me out of a job. And this is Harry from New South Wales. So, I mean, his rights, he's well within his rights to make sure so long as he's delivering as per the contract, he'll be fine, but they can find a way to get rid of him. They'll find a way to get rid of him if they want to. And maybe he needs to start looking for another job. Because it's going to be such a culture shift, such a dramatic shift in how he was working before to how he's working now, that they're not going to handle it. That's why they're pulling him aside. So you've got to set the ground rules right at the beginning, because once they're used to you working all that extra hours, and if other people are doing it too, it's the change, the delta. You know, they're used to it. So let's see what they're saying here on sisters-in-law. For those who aren't aware, the new term quiet quitting is rejecting the hustle culture, or the idea that you have to work has to take over your life, and instead simply doing what is required of you in your role. Now, I've got no issue with the hustle culture, but I'd have it in separate, a multitude of different revenue streams. This might include not staying back late unpaid, and not responding to emails or answering calls outside of normal working hours. During the COVID lockdown, it may have seemed like there was nothing else to do than work, so people stayed online working longer hours, which led to unpaid overtime and perhaps negative impacts on a person's mental health. Yeah, I'm sure that's what caused all the mental health impacts during the lockdowns, just working extra. Yeah, I'm certain. Yep, that's definitely what it was. It sounds like your real concern is that your boss is trying to performance manage you, as you're no longer subscribing to their former hustle culture of work. You cannot be terminated for doing what is expected of you in your job. You should review your employment contract and position description to ensure you haven't unintentionally failed to meet the inherent requirements of your role. Your employer can terminate you if you aren't meeting the inherent requirements of your role. In addition to reviewing your employment contract and position description, you should also review your employer's policies and practices about your role and what is expected of you. If this isn't clear, then you should speak with your boss and ask her to explain the expectations of your role and notify you of any expectations you aren't meeting, then ask for this in writing. No, he should look for another job. He should look for another job. It's gotten to a point now where they've pulled him aside. It's already been damaged. The relationship has already been damaged. They're not happy with him. He needs to find another job. It sounds like your employer might have unreasonably high expectations. There is a fine line between an employer sharing their concerns about your work performance and bullying. Oh, yeah, okay. If you think the line has been crossed and it occurs repeatedly over a period of time, impacting your health, it could constitute workplace bullying, which is unlawful. You should find out whether there are any rules, policies, or procedures your employer must follow to manage underperformance. They may be outlined in your award, registered. Oh boy, your boss shouldn't take disciplinary action against you without valid reason and without following a fair process. Disciplinary action could include a written warning about your apparent underperformance, which would detail the reasons for the warning, your employer's expectations, and consequences for improving your performance over a reasonable time frame. Termination of your employment should only be a last resort if you are continuing not to meet reasonable expectations. If you are ultimately terminated and you believe it was done unfairly, you should consider an unfair dismissal claim with Fair Work Commission. I mean, here's another take. Strict time limits apply, yep, okay. And it's general legal advice. Here's another take from a non-lawyer. What's going to happen is people are going to talk in the industry. So the bosses are going to talk in the industry. The HR woman that you're dealing with is going to talk in the industry, or the HR or the boss there. She's going to talk with other colleagues in the industry. You've probably already gotten a bad rep now. Probably already been to networking events, where, can you even put that name on the resume now of that boss? Oh, no, he doesn't put that extra yards in, he's only here for what he needs to be. So maybe you need to look for other options, other opportunities, open other doors. I know it's unfair. I know it's bullshit. But do you want to get the reputation of being the Fair Work Commission guy who claimed bullying and unfair dismissal? And even if you win, how long can that take? What a pain can it be? Will it destroy your career opportunities? Maybe you find another employer and you set boundaries right at the beginning. Well, let's have a talk. What do you think, everyone? Do you think this is a case of not establishing boundaries at the beginning? Or maybe going, sure, I'll work those extra hours, but you need to compensate me. You need to up my pay. Or maybe, here's the other thing, they're already getting paid excessively more than the award that they're required. So there's an expectation that they contribute and put in those extra hours. I had one employer that was part of the deal. They said, we pay above the award, but we expect you to work more. And I remember as a student, I was working long hours in that architectural practice. I was often there late at night because For some reason, I was their network administrator, so I had to make sure everything backed up on the computers. I guess I was young and I knew the computers. And I'd see middle-aged people who are my age, equivalent of my age, they'd come home. So they'd go home, then they'd come back in the office, and they'd work every night there till 9 o'clock at night, just working on the projects. And I knew in IT, you could get a copy of the software. I think it was MicroStation. You could work from it at home. I'm thinking, now I think, why didn't they do that? It'd still be around your family. So, honestly, I think this is a case of setting boundaries, and this person needs to look for other options. I think the damage has just been done. This organization isn't for them. He's not a cultural fit anymore. He's realized it's bullshit doing the insane hours and doesn't want to do it, so it's time for a new job. What do you reckon, guys? Let me know your take on this one in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. I want to draw your attention to two of my other channels, Heise BIM and HeiseSays International. Check them out if you haven't already. And if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways you can. Financially via YouTube or Patreon, using our referral links, buying our merch, or calling us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next episode of HeiseSays. Now, if they give you free coffee, well, then you should work 50, 60, 70 hours.